for episode 101. Imagine, like 2 weeks ago, we had episode 100, and now we have graduated to the 101st episode. And here's a fun fact. My guest, who is going to be featured, in a few minutes, was my first guest. So we're coming full circle from 1 to 101. That's manifest destiny. So today was meant to happen. And, I'm excited to be here. Let me just make sure I share this live so that people can be a part of this show, because my students are supposed to be listening. I told them to tune in. I also got some of my administrators from school to tune in, because the conversation we are going to have today is going to be quite timely for pretty much everybody, right? So let me just post this in the school chat. See Dr. Rotham. Let me just post this for her. Oh, she said she doesn't have a Facebook account. Fine, then we go to YouTube. I'll tell her it's on YouTube. I will post the YouTube for you. All right. I'm trying to share this on my live. So while I am trying to do the sharing, just give me one quick second. Share to feed, and we on. And the last thing is go on YouTube and look for WINNMedia SKN and get Dr. Rotham, who is the Vice President for Student Affairs at the CFBC, Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. And yeah, she is somebody that I have a lot of respect for. And she always is progressive in the way she thinks. And so, which is why I wanted her to be a part of this conversation. So I found the YouTube link, and we're on. Okay, so what's popping? Last week, what was good? Good thing about this week is the storm came and went with very little damage. We got rain. We got a school day. We were happy for the rain. Happy to stay in and, eat some comfort food and all that kind of stuff. I went storm chasing. And I like to see nature doing its thing. She's asking what's the topic. Dyslexia. Dyslexia. Okay, so, and what else was good last week? We talk about all the good things. My daughter turned 8. And those of you know, that's my partner in everything. We're tied by the hip, and she had a great day. She's now 8, and she is continuing in her creativity on that journey. I got her a STEAM-centric gift. We got her a metal detector. And so we've gone searching for treasures, and we have found some treasures. We went by the sugar mill by the Kim Collins Highway, and we found an old small wheel that looks like it was on a small train track. And then we found some old metal thing. We can't qualify what this is by the beach. It looks very old. So yeah, she looks forward to that. But that's what we do, when you get children presents, consider getting ones that they can learn and have fun at the same time, right? Dr. Rotham is saying, do one on dyscalculia. Okay, I can't even pronounce that word. Well, great. If she wants, in fact, I think I will have her on here in the next couple of weeks so she can talk about that, because I don't know anything about that, So we live and we learn. All right. Now, what else was good that I saw this week? Lucian York, gentleman from Nevis with Nevis roots, got his book out there, The Boy with Dyslexia and His Friend, and talk about owning his truth. I've spoken about this in my class today. I spoke about owning your truth and also embracing people who are different from you are. And believe me or not, this is something that we are not trained to do. We are trained to be segregated. You're from Newtown, you're from this place. You're from town, you're from country. You're from CFBC, Burnham Street, you're from CFBC Tech Block. You're from St. Kitts, you're from Nevis. You like sugar band, you like collision. You know, it is all of these things that we're taught to do as opposed to embracing people who are different from you. And one of the biggest things that we can do, and one of my students that I absolutely respect, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he embraces exactly who he is, you know, and I admire him for that. No one can ever tell him to be or do anything different because he stands on his truth. And I do the same thing, you know, all these years of being called, oh, you're lame, you can't tell jokes, you're weird, you're awkward, you're quirky, you can't dance. Yeah, I own every single one of them. And so when you're able to own your truth, no one can own it for you. You hear that? So kudos to Lucy and York. I didn't get to see any pictures in the book. I saw there was a drawing on the outside. I hope they're pretty pictures inside because we like to see pictures in books like that. Now, coincidentally, today's falling on Teacher Appreciation Day. And I want to appreciate all the teachers out there, including the one that's right across from me, who you're going to hear in a few. And let me tell you something, like it takes so much to be a teacher, and they deserve to be affirmed and appreciated because, I don't know, man, it takes a lot to get up every day and perform, get up every day and prepare, get up every day and deal with different energies. And one of my students pulled me aside. He was like, how do you do it? You know, I was like, listen, let me give you the trick. You got to appreciate everybody where they are for who they are. And so if you're a class clown, I respect you as the class clown. If you're the class bulb, I respect you as a class bulb. If you're the class mouse, you just keep quiet all the time, respect you where you are and build on that foundation. And when that affirmation and validation becomes the norm, then they will respect you back. And so this week was really, yesterday I literally just put aside the class that I had planned for them, and we just went on this life journey on empowerment. I gave them my story of things that I had to deal with and how I overcame certain things. And one of my students got up and said, you know, do you know what it would be like to know what people think about me after I die? Like, I would want to know what people think about me. I was like, this is the IT class. They want to know what. I said, you know what? I built a platform for that. You can find out all of that stuff before you die. And before you know it, we were talking about testimony. Before you know it, the class signed up for testimony. Before you know it, they're sending testimonials to each other. They're sending testimonials to me. One of my students sent me one, just responded to one to me today, literally saying, thank you for what you do. You're my favorite teacher. You're pushing me. You're encouraging me. And the platform is being used for what it's supposed to be used for. And it felt really timely that all of these things are happening on this week for teacher appreciation. And we have these students who are affirming themselves and teachers and all that kind of stuff. So I love being a teacher. It's challenging for me sometimes because I am a bit scatterbrained. And that means that sometimes I have a bit of a problem with organization. But I am getting better. All right. Now, so what else has been good this past week? Well, I think I've covered all the stories. I did not really want to go outside of the mold of talking about what's going on here and what's going on, you know, in other places and all that. I just want to stick to the topic. At the end of the day, we're happy that we are going to be embracing a topic that people don't really know much of. We spoke about dyslexia in my class today. I asked who knows about this word, and nobody knew. Not one student could identify what that meant. And the more I spoke about it, the more they got intrigued. The more I spoke about the people who have changed our world, who have been dyslexic, their eyes popped out. And for me, I was like, wow, like this is something that I thought more people knew. And the more I learn, the more I know we don't know much. And so I like to be a part of the change that I want to see. And so that is why I have brought in my guest, who you're going to hear in a few minutes. And we're just going to have a candid discussion. We have no notes prepared in that way where we know what we're going to talk about. She doesn't know any questions I'm going to ask her. We're just going to have a candid conversation wherein we're going to just touch on these things that need constant attention so that this squeaky wheel gets the oil that it deserves. Because let me tell you something, right? Because we all learn differently, it means that we do not have a system that is equitable for everyone to learn and thrive. We do not have a system that is designed to be equitable for everyone. And so we have the system that has been designed where we celebrate the highs, celebrate the passes, and the people who are struggling, we tend to not give them their due credit for the things that they may be better at than getting 9 passes. So on that note, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back. I'm going to see my guests in the studio, and we're going to have a lovely conversation. All right?
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is WIN FM.
Everybody beware, you better prepare. Disaster can happen anytime, anywhere. Everybody beware, you better prepare. Disaster can happen anytime, anywhere.
Why prepare a disaster plan? The Caribbean is vulnerable to the effects of many hazards. We're directly in the path of hurricanes, earthquakes, and tsunamis. Many of us live with volcanoes at our back doors. This doesn't mean that we should live in constant fear, nor does it mean we should be too relaxed. Instead, we should prepare ourselves so that when disaster does strike, we will reduce the damage it can do to us. For more information, contact NEMA at 466-5100.
Everybody beware, you better prepare. Disaster can happen anytime, anywhere. Everybody beware, you better prepare.
Tonight is the night.
All right. We're back. So let me tell you guys, we had our first episode with Kimon. This was 2 years ago. Is it 2 years? No, almost 3, I think. I think it was 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. And our 101st episode, yes, it's that long. Our 101st episode is with you. We've come full circle.
I'm back.
This is amazing. So thank you for coming. What has happened since the last time you were here? Tell us some good things that would have happened to you. I know you've gone through some challenges, but I want to focus on the good. Talk to me.
So I'm not sure. When we were here, had I already done Omalu season?
No. Wait. I don't think so.
I'm not sure. That was so long ago.
It was the first episode in the year 2020. He wants you to go closer to the mic. The year 2020. I don't know. So let's talk about...
I'm not sure. And I tell you, I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast this morning. How I'm going to remember what happened over the past 3 years.
Good. Anything good. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
You started this movement of peas. Peas in a pod.
Yes, and I think when I came to my first episode, we spoke about the challenges we were having as a private sector.
Yep. And see what's...
Right. So, yeah, we started a Private Educators Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, we champion our cause, more or less. We just advocate for ourselves and, as you said, equity, so that we can take care of the nation's children.
All right. So today we are talking about something that people still don't know much of, right? And I'm going to start by some quotes from somebody who has lived with dyslexia, somebody who has contributed to a lot of the science that we have in the world today. One of the quotes I'm going to say is, "Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world." You know who said that?
Who said that?
Einstein.
See?
Here's another one. Words or language, as they are written or spoken, do not seem to play any role in my mechanism of thought. Einstein again. Next one. Thoughts did not come from any verbal formulation. I rarely think in words at all. A thought comes,
Pictures.
and I may try to express it in words afterwards. And the last one from Einstein is, writing is difficult, and I communicate this way very badly. Richard Branson says, it is time that we lost the stigma around dyslexia. It is not a disadvantage. It's merely a different way of thinking. Once freed from the archaic schooling practices and preconceptions, my mind opened up. Out in the real world, my dyslexia became my massive advantage. It helped me think creatively and laterally and see solutions whereas others saw problems. And the last one is by Anderson Cooper. Growing up in a home where reading and writing had great value, Cooper said he tried his best to keep up with his brother, an avid reader, but oftentimes was left simply to pretend to read it because I had trouble reading and making sense of words in particular letters. So those are some famous people who have been open about their dyslexia. And I want to know, why is it, or is it still a problem for people to open up about that being their reality?
Very much so. As you know, dyslexia is dear to my heart. I am not dyslexic, but my daughter is. And I think for me, the journey with her, I was there every step of the way. So I was there for the highs, and I would have been there for the lows. I think we have created a stigma in our society where we think that dyslexic persons are what we call dumb, which is not the case. Dyslexics are quite brilliant. They struggle with reading and spelling, and they usually have poor working memory. And so that spills off into where you may find them not being able to sequence, not being able, like ordering of numbers, they won't be able to continuously, see, like when we in preschool and we do one, what comes after one, two, dyslexics will have trouble doing things like that. Phonetics, so the letter sounds, being able to distinguish left from right.
Yep.
Sometimes they are clumsy. They tend to, but then again, you may find dyslexics who are brilliant dancers or footballers or basketballers. So it's a continuum, and you can find it on a different range. So you may have some children who are really bad, and even with interventions, they still struggle. And then you will have the children with the interventions, they just so.
So there's a science behind this, right?
So it's a neurological delay. It's a deficiency. So our brain has a left side and a right side. So what we call normal, we hear spoken word, we see words, and it goes directly to our left side because that's the part that takes in those things. But for a dyslexic, it goes on the right side, and then he has to travel all the way around to the left side. That's pretty much how I can explain it from what...
As a teacher, you can explain it perfectly.
Right, as a teacher. So they take it in on the wrong side, and then it has to travel over to get to the right side, which is the left side.
I didn't see it that
but
way.
by the time it gets over there,
it's been lost in translation.
Right.
Oh, and sometimes they just can't help it.
They can't help it. They trust me. They are trying their best. But
wow, I didn't see it that way. So they're trying their best, and I've told people before, and this is an analogy I've given to my class this week. I said, if you are born with a disability on your foot and you can't walk properly, how would you like it if you are chastised for not being able to walk properly? What happened to your foot? Walk properly now.
Walk fast enough.
Walk fast. What's happening? And you get lashes. You're beaten. You're chastised continually for not being able to walk without a limp when you were born that way.
Yeah.
And the same analogy is with people who are born this way. You're born,
You're born
this way.
Yes.
Wow. So how is it perceived by teachers now, at least in these parts, in the Caribbean region? Do you know any?
I honestly, I can speak for, because I've been to Trinidad and I've been to Barbados, and the teachers in Trinidad and Barbados, they know what's going on. So there are trainings that are done for teachers to help with the strategies inside of the classrooms.
Oh.
Right. So Barbados has a dyslexia institute. So they are the ones who would do the testing. They test you. So that's where we went to get my daughter tested. So you spend a day there,
Okay.
and they run these different tests to find out, what are their strong points, where they're weak at, and everything, and then they give you a report when you're finished. So Barbados is on top of it. Trinidad is on top of it. In St. Kitts, I am not sure what happens in our school systems. I know some years ago I had a discussion with a teacher, and she said she doesn't think it is something like dyslexia is real. In a nutshell, she doesn't think it is real, and she's like, "Oh, some of these children just need to focus." And yeah, that's one of the things dyslexics won't be able to do.
I know.
And if you're teaching on a blackboard and you're writing, trust me, they're gonna go off into something else.
That is true. That is
something
true.
is gonna pass, and they're gonna be like,
Woo,
yeah,
look at that.
right.
Yeah.
And then they'll be thinking about
They
whatever,
do, and
right?
doodle.
They start to doodle, or sometimes when they're lost in the classroom, they'll start giving trouble.
Oh, you touched on something.
Yeah.
You touched on something, because I am kind of looking at it from one worldview where a child is getting lots of love and attention at home, and that way the learning environment being frustrating to them does not lead to a destructive consequence or distraction. But those who are not getting that, it can lead to truancy and all that kind of stuff. Oh.
Some years ago, I read an article, and it was in one of those dyslexia blogs, and they were saying they did a research and found out that most of the inmates in prisons were dyslexic.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Yeah, I did. I was reading this. We do a lot of these dyslexia group things, and they send a lot of research, and I read that a lot of the inmates in prisons are dyslexic.
So we have all of these 5-point plan for crime and all of these things, and the RSS and all those things, and we are not tackling some of these things from the root, from early childhood.
Yeah, because and I'm just speaking from some of the experiences that my daughter would have had. Teachers can be really mean, and I don't really want to bash teachers. It's Teachers Appreciation Day. Thank you to all of the lovely teachers out there, and it's not to bash teachers, but teachers who are not knowledgeable of dyslexia or how it works, or how the child brain works with dyslexia, they tend to be very hard on the children. And I usually say to persons, children's natural ability is to please adults.
Fair.
That's what it is. As they grow, that's all they want to do. They just want to please us. So when we think they're not working hard enough, trust me, they're giving you their best. But their best might not be what you think is their best. And so even with my daughter, I found like sometimes she would come home from school and she would be tired. She would be tired. She just doesn't want to do anything. Only to find out as I further dug into it and did my own little courses and whatever, because their brain does so much trying to process everything that you're giving to them.
It's hard work.
It's hard work. So when you spend 8-9 hours in school and then you have to come home and still complete homework that would take what we consider a normal child 20-30 minutes, it takes a dyslexic about 4 hours.
Wow. So that's deep.
Yep.
How was it perceived now by their peers early? Or is it perceived? with
It's-
play and stuff, or
You will only pick up a dyslexic if you ask them to write or read.
otherwise you can't perceive it?
If they're just doing normal things, hanging out, you'll never know.
So this is a reading and writing thing,
It's a reading and writing thing.
and comprehension.
Comprehension, working memory. Don't forget the working memory. Dyslexics have poor working, most of them,
And
poor working
spelling.
memory. So it's spelling, reading, poor working memory.
He wants our producer wants you to describe what working memory is for.
Okay, so working memory is the ability to memorize information. Dyslexics only connect to things that are important to them.
Oh, say that again. So that means that if you're teaching them, if you can connect things,
If you can connect it to a real life experience, they
then it
remember
change.
it.
Let me tell
But
you.
if it's a bunch of information you're just putting on them, they're not
Yeah.
going to remember.
That is true.
They're not going to remember it. So you're going to be giving them like long division. I'm just using,
Yeah.
and you know, long division is steps.
Yes.
So you have to, they'll probably get the first step in,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, it's going to go haywire.
Until they can connect it to something.
Until you give them. So for my daughter with long division, I had to color code it. I had to color code long division for her. So whenever it was, when she had to multiply, I had to put it in one color. When she had to divide, I had to put it in one color. So so that she can get it, and then that's how she mastered long division.
You know, last week I was teaching my daughter how to spell certain things. She was struggling with some of them, like, because believe. It sounds like BELEEV.
Yeah, because that's how. Because based on the phonetics that she knows, then
It makes sense.
it makes sense.
And she's like, but Dad, why? I said, okay, sweetie, this is how you spell believe. B, lie, and then VE. Oh, okay. B, lie, like you tell a lie, and add a V at the end. And she got it right. Like when we're doing lots of spelling prep, that is what I have to do. And she's thriving. She's getting like 90s and whatever, but I have to always.
But then, even in the word believe, there is no word in the English language that ends with V. So you must
Ooh.
always add an E, and the E generally will be silent.
That is true. She,
Right.
trust me, her mind just starts to explode. And she's like, but Dad, this doesn't make any sense. I said, I know. I know.
And then it's kind of confusing, because remember, we also learned that if two vowels come together, the first one says his name, but the I and the E comes together, and then the I is not saying I, it's saying E.
Trust me. My gosh. So, like, this is.
So what we usually do is you say believe, and so it's 2 syllables.
Yeah.
Believe, and then you just want them to remember the IE. So they'll get the B, because the B is by itself BE. It's an open syllable B, so it's gonna say B, and then the IE is what you'll put a red circle over it, because that's what you want them to remember.
Well, she remembered the word lie. But what I found works with her, what I find amazing.
And if that works, yeah.
It's
that's
something that we call them reference points. So when we're having difficulty mastering something, I have to create a joke or something that's funny for her to like, tomorrow you're gonna get this.
Yeah.
But I recognize that when it comes to vocabulary, I kid you not, she remembers so much. Like she would have seen a vocabulary list once, and I'm asking her, and she can actually comprehend what they. I mean, when I said seen them, I guess spoken about them, and so I'm amazed at that particular skill set of hers.
Their ability to do that is excellent. Their reasoning skills
Yes,
are top
yes,
notch.
yes.
Their
Yes.
reasoning skills are top notch. Their negotiating skills top notch.
Do you know who's dyslexic here in St. Kitts who has strong reasoning skills and negotiating skills? The guy with the hat, the lawyer with the hat. What's his name again? He ran in constituency number 6, Chesley Hamilton. He's dyslexic.
Well, some of our most beautiful buildings are designed by a dyslexic. but I don't think I can say.
You can't say that. Okay, I was about to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say it. No, we said it before, But anyway,
Well, I'm not sure if
we're
I
not
can say his name,
we're
but
not going to say it.
no.
Okay, we just know that.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Okay, let's name drop some other dyslexic folk.
Tatum Channing. Or
Steve-
Channing Tatum,
Channing
whatever.
Tate-
Yeah,
Steve
him,
Jobs.
yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Jobs is
Yep,
dyslexic.
Yep.
Mohammed, yes, Steve Jobs is dyslexic.
Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic? He's dyslexic. That's why he thought outside the box. When he launched the iPhone, everybody was hung up on their BlackBerry, and everybody was like, "You're not gonna get business people to be divorced from their buttons on their BlackBerries." And he says, "Okay, hold my beer." And look now, everybody wants a touch screen.
Yep.
Richard Branson.
Yep.
I'm actually going to write him after the show.
Listen, I so want to meet Richard Branson, and it's not even that I'm dyslexic.
We're going to work on it. I'm writing him after the show. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Walt Disney. People who have changed the world. Pablo Picasso. Einstein. Cher. Or Cher, whatever her name is. Like, there's so many of us. Then I said them. I don't know if I'm one. I'm just saying there's so many who have changed the world because, and I'm going to read, I think I'm going to read about this later, but there's a woman who says, I put dyslexia on my CV as a skill.
That's what those FBI's and Scotland Yard want.
They want dyslexic thinking because
Yep.
you think outside
Yep.
the box.
Yep.
You see things and you connect the clues.
A lot of Fortune 500 company billionaires are dyslexic as well too.
Yeah. So, okay, Pretty just said that's why they've dropped out of college, which is, Steve Jobs, all of the,
Yep.
That-
And they probably, because college was probably too much for the
too much for them because it wasn't catering
it wasn't
to their
catered
learning
to them.
style.
Right.
So some of these dropouts is also as a result of that. So
Yep.
so society. So while we are all talking about these problems that we are having in society, we're not talking about these things that actually could produce real fruit.
Right. Sometimes it just takes one teacher to believe in this child, and you'll be amazed as to the confidence that you can give them to conquer the world. And did you know that 1 in every 5 children in a classroom has dyslexia?
Wow. My it's amazing. Dr. Rotham is communicating with us live, and she's sending me content by saying there's a correlation between dyslexia and criminal behavior. The first step act to require screening treatment.
Yep.
And it says a study of Texas prisoners in 2000 found that 48% were dyslexic and 2/3 struggled with reading comprehension.
I'm not lying.
Thank you, Doc. You got to come on the show, though. You got to come on the show. So, this is amazing. So why aren't we pounding the pavement with the people? We're paying people lots of money to come and pay people to keep peace and all that kind of stuff when we're giving them dyslexic learning pedagogy. Huh? Pedagogy. That's the thing. That's the word, right? That's the big word? Pedagogy?
I don't know if you're calling it correctly, but
so pedagogy is the way, your teaching methodology, all of those things, the paradigms and all of those things, and that is what we need help with. So let's now dig a little bit deeper to the phases of dyslexia, from denial to acceptance to thriving. Who was the first person typically to recognize that somebody may be dealing with this different style of learning?
it's usually the parent.
And what's that first reaction? What do they see first?
They see doom.
They see doom.
That's
Okay.
that's the best way I can explain it. They see doom. It's like, oh, my child can't read. That's not really the case. But generally, the parent is who picks it up first. I was the one who picked it up first with my daughter. What I found though was when I shared my concerns, I was told because she is a 98 average testing child, she's good. But then when we get home, I was seeing like something. This girl is using her memory to read. So she'll read for reading tests, for reading exam, 100%. Take those same words from the book
Thank you.
and write it down on a piece of paper, and
she
she's looking
can't.
at me like,
Yeah.
what is that?
And you know that translates into word problems in math because you have to understand what's being
But
written,
she's excellent in math.
the numbers. But to read a word problem,
Well, no, I'm talking about no. She's good because we were able to give her the strategies to teach her how to master reading and comprehension. And she still struggles from time to time. So if you find she has a very long passage that she has to work on, we'll either have to get the audio version to it, or I will have to I'll have to sit and read it. So I'll have to sit and read it for her so that she can just focus on what I'm saying, and then she'll.
so what you're saying is that the first person to notice is normally the parent.
And they're usually going to be in denial, and denial lasts a very long time for most parents.
And then after you're in denial, then you have to accept it.
Yeah, you
What-
have to accept it and move quickly.
Is there something as too late in this?
No, and I just want to throw a plug in there. The institute that I did my training to assess and teach dyslexia, they now have an online program, the Alto.
Oh, yes.
Yes, they have an online program, and it helps children and adults learn to read. So it's not too late.
It is not too late.
Yes, and if you have any questions about Alto, you can contact me.
Yes, you can contact Teacher Kimon about Alta.
Yes.
And I think I saw something about that. I think it was 2 years ago or last year when you had launched that.
Yeah.
So please take what she's saying very
It
seriously.
caters from children ages 9 to adults.
So maybe these prisoners that we have, they can get involved in that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, you'll sign up. There's a fee attached to it.
I understand that.
Yeah, and then you can sit behind the comfort of the computer and you do your strategies right there.
So what I'm saying is, for the at-risk folk who have fallen by the wayside and engaged in criminal behavior because some of these things weren't identified early, is this a strategy that can get them back on that straight, straighten them out?
It's possible. Some of these criminals, they've experienced trauma, and I think sometimes we need to deal with trauma first.
Okay.
And healing, and then we can probably go into the learning end of it. I would hope that our Ministry of Education can introduce the Alta Reading Program
Thank you.
into the schools so that our children can actually have the opportunity to excel.
So let's ask the question, like, you're very smart, right? And we have people who are running the things that make the country work. They are also purportedly smart too. Why isn't the pavement being pounded enough by these other smart people?
This is just my own personal
Yeah.
opinion. I find parents are not making enough noise. And that's just my honest view. Parents are not making enough noise.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback on that, and because when we have election cycles, right? There was a particular politician or minister or whatever the person was came to my house to, pound the pavement And she asked me, like, what are your issues? And I was like, and I started to talk, and this person was like, well, what about housing? I said, and building. I said, listen, let's go back to the basics of family and actually accepting everybody as a human being first. Let's look at some of the paradigms that we have that we've accepted as the norm. One, and we need to have a show about this. If your child is sick, who's supposed to stay home with the child? Well, not you. You have to go to work. Okay, who's supposed? Can you take the child to work? No. Can you stay home with the child? No, because you cannot get sick leave on the behalf of a child. Okay, well, I'm going to get a phantom sick leave. What? So you can get a phantom sick leave, submit that to work, which is what happens, so you can stay home with your child. So we don't have any paradigm that says when you have children or dependents, you get more benefits. I'm talking about as a society, when you start thinking that we're human beings. Or let's look at the school system and work system. When does school finish? 3:30. When does the work day finish? 4 o'clock. Who's supposed to pick up the children? Yeah. Well, we've accepted it. For years, no one is complaining. But who is, someone is being cheated. That's what I'm saying. For what we've accepted, something is, or someone, or the system isn't created to consider us as human beings until a natural disaster happens. so that,
I guess it goes back to years before, because we had the grandparents at home.
yes,
So it was always easy for us to just leave them by the grandparents.
but it's not the case anymore.
But the grandparents are just as young now, so
Yep.
they too are
They're
working.
working.
And for me, and this is just me, and I hope I get paid for my ideas, but this is just me. I feel like in 2023, we should be considering after school programs at the schools.
Yes.
And again, and I want to say this, and I really don't want it to
say
be
it.
offensive.
Nah, say it.
Like, when I sit down and I think about, and don't get me wrong, I am for helping families who really need the help. But when I sit down and I think about the 250 vouchers, and I think about the $1,000 that we are giving out, I'm like, I can think about 3 different things we could do with this money that would benefit our people. So what about thinking that, hey, maybe schools can run after-school programs? So let's see what it would cost to run an after-school program. Engage them in, you can decide whether you want to do STEAM,
Life skills.
whatever. But, have the discussion, see and you run after school until about maybe 5.
And
maybe.
then it makes sense. Then
Right.
school becomes more of that holistic learning environment
Right.
that
But
encompasses
then,
everything. Yeah.
persons may not want to be a part of it, because we are also a people who have to, what's in it for me? And not what's in it to help build community, to help build support.
So for some of these things to thrive, we need to change the way we think.
Thinking.
First.
Yeah, we need to change the way we're thinking and see that. And yes, we're going to have the flip side of it, where people say, teachers will say, parents don't like to deal with the children. They're always quick to, put the children off. And yeah, there are cases where you see that. But seriously, those are things that we can consider in 2023. Maybe having these same primary schools have after-school programs.
That are optional.
Yeah. If you want them to stay, you stay. If you don't want them to stay, then.
Good solutions. That's what this show is about.
I'm just saying.
So let's dive into something still along the same lines of the system. Like, is it right? Does it help that we stream some of these students? Like, or do you think that if you have students who a cohort of students who learn differently, do you think that they should all be put together to learn this different way, or they need to be, included?
Isolated, or you think you're wondering if they should be isolated or be included?
Yes.
I am for inclusion to an extent.
So how does that help? How does that teacher deal with that? Two that are 3 or 4 students in the class who need that extra.
It's called. What's the term they use in this school? So this is what we do in preschool, and the term is gonna come, but it's not with me right now. Okay. So when I assess my kids at school, there are some children who will gather what I need them to know from a story, but then there'll be some who wants to see a video. There'll be some who wants to sing it, because in singing it, they remember, once they start to sing the song, they remember the facts that I want them to learn. And then there are some who just wants to see a video. There are some who just wants to touch it. And I'm trying to remember the word that they use to describe. So it should be...
Haptic?
No. You call it... Anyway, it's going to come to me. Maybe after the show it's going to come. So you have different elements of the same topic, but you're able to... Some maybe better just listening to it, because I don't want to read what you're writing on the board. I just want you to tape it and just send it to me, and I can listen to it. So you just have to find... somebody might type in the word I'm looking for.
You have to profile your students then.
Yeah. So you sit and you observe the way your children learn. And then, when you create your lesson plan, you're going to say, okay, well, I realize these two might not get it when I just write the notes. Because you might write the notes on the board, but this particular child cannot write quickly enough. So they won't get half of the notes that you put on the board. But then if I write the notes on the board, then I can have a video version to it. Or I can have a song, make up a song to that one. Or I can just bring in materials and we can touch it and feel it, because dyslexic learners work best with multisensory learning aids.
Wow. Man, you're touching on something, because as a teacher, I do struggle sometimes when I teach pure maths, and that's not a very easy topic to teach. And sometimes I don't move on until the entire class understands what I'm saying.
But I'm sure you'll probably find a video that you can share, 3, 4, 5 videos maybe.
I need to start doing that, because I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to know how to teach them in every way to help them understand. But I think I need to accept that I'm not 10 men in one. I'm not 10 teachers in one. So I tend to try to assimilate all of these things. I would consume that content and then try to pass it on to them and find different ways. And I've also found that I said this, and I said, guys, like, everything I'm teaching is in the textbook. So why am I here? Why am I here if everything that I'm teaching you is in a book that you can read? And the thing is, they can't connect. Right? And so my job is to make it easy for you to understand. And so what I find myself doing is just finding different ways of representing the same solution, or literally just cleaning the entire board and starting over from scratch, just so that one person can understand.
Yeah. So, and sometimes you'll probably have some children who can learn through drawings,
Oh, yes. Thank you. Like, I gave my students an assignment last week or 2 weeks ago, and they had to design, they had to give me the history of databases and the timeline. And I told them, you have to be creative in the way you present this. So use your creativity and present this in a creative way instead of just giving me words. And I reminded them that everything that we're using now in the world works because people were creative. The internet was not designed by people who are creative. It was designed by these nerds who just wanted to send data from point A to point B. That's why IP addresses, I'm getting technical now for you guys out there. IP addresses, you've heard of that word, IP addresses, right? That is an address, a physical address of a device on a network that you want to reach. Every website that you have has a physical IP address. We can't remember those, but the people who designed the internet, they didn't care. Like, yeah, IP addresses. Just remember the IP. Well, of course, the nerds would remember IP addresses. But when the internet became something that layman people, ordinary people had to use, they couldn't design it that way. And so what they needed to do was find a way to translate words into IP addresses. And that's why you have these big servers called domain name servers, which resolve ESPN.com into its IP address. And when you send that request to ESPN.com, it goes straight to that DNS server to say, okay, let's check. And these DNS servers are connected all over the world. They share this information and they have to find what that name resolves to, that IP address, and that's how you get to that. Interesting, right? And so yeah, I kind of had a brain fart just now why I just spoke about that. I think I spoke about it because I can't remember. Brain fart. See? I'm having one of these things. All right. My Dr. Rotham is speaking to me and saying that, yeah, she says that she believes a parent's treatment of dyslexia is like going through the stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Yep.
Interesting. So, what about the workplace and tertiary institutions? What is that experience like?
Okay, so I just want to throw this plug in there. Once you are dyslexic, you're always dyslexic. There's no cure for dyslexia. And I think I remember having a discourse with a teacher, and this teacher, she was tasked with helping my daughter at the time with the reading issue, the reading and spelling issue. And I said to her, so what are the strategies you're doing with her while when she's with you? And she didn't want to say to me. And I said to her, she's dyslexic at home, right? So I would still have to know, how do I work with her when we're at home? I did this I asked about 3 times, and after the 3rd time when I realized she wasn't giving me any information, I pulled my daughter from going to the classes. So my daughter only did about three sessions. And then I pulled her, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. Now in the workplace, dyslexics, and I think bosses should know that dyslexics will have the little scatterbrain moments where they'll be very disorganized, their desk might be messy, but they're very good at the task that you give to them. So whatever it is you give to them, they will be good at it. Now, if you're giving a dyslexic, and we had a joke because I was speaking to someone who's a dyslexic, and they said to me, why do you think I'm the boss? So I'm like, well, he's like, my secretary types for me because he don't have the reading and spelling of the bad things. He's like, we hire these persons to do that for us. We just say what we want and they do it. So I think dyslexics in the workplace is a plus. But you have to be mindful that they will have these little, what we call the quirks, the little off moments where they may not remember a sequence of instructions that you may give to them. So, like I could remember my daughter one time, I said to her, oh, go get your shoes and don't forget to take up your bag and see your water bottle on the table. And we get outside and only the shoes is on. And I'm like, hey, where the other stuff? And she's like, what stuff?
Yep.
She's like, huh? I said, but I told her. So then what we had to do was get your shoes, get your bag, get your water bottle. Okay, what are you going to get? Then she repeat to me, my shoes, my bag, my water bottle. And I say that again. As she's walking to do it, she's saying it, my shoes, my bag, my water bottle. So she's picking them up as she comes. So when she gets it, now she comes. And then that's how you have to do it. So, yeah, you'll have those moments in the workplace where the boss might be like, but I tell you, try take it down a notch. Just in a gentle reminder. Try not to overload their fun part of their brain.
Because they don't work well under pressure
Nope.
at all.
At all. So,
They shut down.
so
It
in
overloads, right?
testing, when you're testing a dyslexia, you're doing your classroom tests and your CXCs and your, well, I don't know what they call them now, CSEC or whatever they call them. I don't know.
C-second,
Yeah.
cape and-
Timing them is not a good thing
Ooh. Yep.
because they'll be more focused on, it's already hard for them to process the information they have to read. So imagine trying to process what I have to read in front of me, answer it, and I'm still looking at the time to make sure that I finish. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a
So
lot.
do you think that we should have different testing methodologies for people who have been
Yeah, and I honestly don't know why teachers, especially in the primary and high school, I don't understand why. If you see a child is struggling to write, but they can verbally present the work that you want, let them do it verbally.
Yeah, I'm happy in my daughter's school when if she writes P as Q or Q as P, they don't, she's not penalized because they understand what she's trying to express. And
Yep.
that is a big deal for me and for her.
Do you know that the reason why the color for dyslexia is red is because of how teachers use their reading pens?
Oh.
Mind blowing.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
That
So
is-
that's why the color is red. Because when you look at a book where a dyslexic has work, it's going to be filled with reading
Red.
pens.
Wow.
It's going to be X's, lots of X's, and discouraging for children, by the way.
That is true. Who want to
Right.
please,
Right.
as we said
Right.
earlier on.
So imagine opening your book and seeing all these X's and these red marks. And another thing that's not good for dyslexic children is calling them out to read spontaneously. Don't call them in front of the class to do it. You know they're already struggling to read. And teachers love to do that. And the dyslexic children will shy away from wanting to read. But they'll be the ones to say, oh, Anoite, come up and read. But you know he struggles to read. And then they become the class clown because he can't call the words. And everybody's laughing after him.
Wow. Yeah, we're just about at the end of the show, and this has been a wonderful exposition, discussion, conversation, everything on. And I appreciate, Fran she says, sending much love from Miami. You guys rock, keep inspiring, teaching, preach the word. So happy. Thank you, Fran. We miss you.
Hi, friend.
We miss you.
We do.
Especially on that PTA board. Anyway, but good job. And thank you to Dr. Rotham for participating via
Thanks, Dr.
WhatsApp. Because she said she doesn't have Facebook. And then thank you, Tanshay Miller, my student. She chimed in. And whoever else who was too shy to let me know that they were listening. We appreciate all of you. And we will be back with more of these conversations. The more we pound the pavement, the more likely we'll break it. And they'll say, let's fix it.
Yep.
So on that note, remember, we're not all created the same, eh? And so people learn differently. And just treat them with love and compassion and be kind. That's not too hard, because that's what you want them to do if you were in their shoes. Nobody ever enjoys or says that they want to be mean to. You hear that? Nobody ever says or they enjoy being mean to. Okay? So on that note, we'll be back next week with some more good news for our 102nd episode. And that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you, Kimon. All right.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye.